Welcome to Gold Derby. I am senior editor Marcus James Dixon, and we are here with the one and only Nwodim from Saturday Night Live. Ego, you just completed your 5th season on the show, and it's quite possibly your strongest and funniest year yet. How do you feel when you look back at the season as a whole? How do you feel?
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much. The season went by so quickly in a sense. I know we lost a few episodes to the strike, but I feel like I got to have so much fun, and fully I'm like, it's illegal how much fun I got to have. And it was so cool to, I feel like, finally have some space. I came into the cast in 2018, as it's been 5 years. It was a very large cast, and then it went to get larger. And there were a lot of people ahead of me in line, if you will, who had been around for some time and had paid their dues at the show, and it was their time to shine and play. And so it felt like, there was room to really breathe and explore and play and bop around and work with different writers in a way that I hadn't been able to, I think, before. And so it has been, it feels so good to feel like, I really got to showcase just some of the things that I really love to do, and have the support of the writers and to have the support of producers in that. And just, I felt like I was allowed to soar this season. And so it's been really cool to look back and reflect on it too.
I felt the same thing. And I'm curious, how has your confidence grown over the past 5 years? Do you get nervous each and every Saturday?
Okay. So as far as my confidence goes, the show is such a unique beast. It's its own thing. There's nothing like it, no performance like it. I mean, we all get, in terms of host, a lot of people will say no because they're like, I don't want to do live performance, and certainly not on like live TV. And it just is out there, and it lives forever, especially with YouTube. I feel the show has absolutely grown my confidence. I mean, part of that is like being there long enough to understand how the machine operates and what works at the show, what doesn't work, what the audience enjoys, what they don't. I think there's a period of time where you're trying to figure out as a new cast member, especially I came in and I did not know anyone that worked there besides like 2 people in passing. And so it really was like getting acclimated to a new city, getting acclimated to the show, to new friends and colleagues. And that stuff takes time. And so now, being in my 5th year, I'm like, I guess I'm a senior now. So that automatically, seniors always have a little more confidence than the freshmen. And so I feel like I got confident just having been there and knowing and feeling like, okay, I understand how this place works a little bit more. The show will always surprise you, but at least I feel like I have some footing now and just a broader sense of exactly what works there. It feels so good. It feels so nice and refreshing to feel like, okay, the audience is familiar with me, I am familiar with them, and to feel just kind of like in lockstep with the show. It feels really, really good.
We have to talk about Lisa from Temecula. She absolutely blew up on social media with all the table shaking and the steak cutting. I'm curious, what was your reaction when you saw all of the love pouring in for your quirky new character?
I mean, Marcus, I was not anticipating that. So that's the best. Like, surprises can be good sometimes. And so that was a surprise that was, I think, really, really good, where I got to have so much fun playing the character. And I've never gone into a sketch or a week or anything being like, and this is going to go viral. I mean, maybe somebody does, but I feel like that'd be sick and twisted and also lead to a lot of heartbreak and disappointment. But because you almost can't predict you can't predict what's going to go viral. And we see so much funny stuff at our table read. It has been so rewarding to feel like this thing that I really loved doing. I mean, I loved it. I could not get through Lisa from Temecula at our table read. Like, I could not do it without laughing, which is so not me. But I think the whole last page and a half, I was just barely getting words out at table read. And it's so special to be like, this thing I love so much, people have enjoyed watching. And I get people yelling, cook my meat at me on the street, which would normally make me go, excuse me. But, it's Lisa. What do you mean, cook your meat? But it's so cool to see everyone enjoy this thing I enjoyed doing. And then to watch them interact, people like fans and such interact and talk about how much with one another they liked it is, I mean, my mind is blown and I feel really fortunate, really, really fortunate.
I think all of the fans kind of hoped that this character would return, and she did. In one of the last episodes of the season, it was the salad tossing sequel. So how happy were you that, you know, this character is apparently going to keep coming back? I mean, we're going to see her again, I'm assuming.
I hope we get to see her again. You know, that is cool because the sketch was not written with like, oh, this is going to be a character in mind. I know I didn't write it, but Alex English, it was born of like his cousin ordered a steak well done at dinner, family dinner when he was home. And he was like, okay, I'm making a sketch because she's kind of shaking the table and doesn't know it. Trying to cut through her hard steak. And so it was more of a premise-based sketch, but then as it came to life and we put clothes on the character and gave her a voice in my performance, it became a character-based sketch. And so that was genuinely surprising, I think, for me and the writers of that sketch, that it's like, oh, this is now sort of character piece. How cool. I love getting to do her again. That was amazing to know that people wanted to see it. And now I'm like, where else can we put her? It's so interesting in like this day and age, like with a recurring character on SNL, because there's YouTube, right? So people, if they want their dose of Lisa, there's like the very first sketch at the birthday dinner that they could watch over and over again. So when we did the sequel, if you will, the Toss My Salad, Lisa, the writers were sort of like, look, we're probably not going to top the first one. Like that's kind of unheard of in generally speaking. And so like, let's just try to have as much fun and have this be as Lisa can be. And I think we did that. And so now I'm like, where else can we put her? And where else will we see her? That is to be determined, but very exciting to think about.
Another sketch I wanted to highlight from this season was Exorcism, where you played Mrs. Shaw, the upstairs neighbor who got annoyed because Jenna Ortega's exorcism was a little bit too loud.
It was loud and the demon was making noise. Can you believe the demon making noise when I'm trying to sleep in the middle of the night? What is it, 6 p.m. in the middle of the night or something? That was Mrs. Shaw. Her delusion is my favorite. Her delusion, her assuredness, the confidence on that woman. She's lived a life and she's like, I've seen it all, done it all. I'm going to get this demon out of here. And honestly, you got to give it credit, like a little bit of a lofty goal, a bit haughty of her and presumptuous, but she did get the demon. She did get the demon out. So you got to give Mrs. Shaw some credit.
And do you love playing these types of characters that are just very assertive characters, very hilarious, in your face, that kind of steal the scene?
I just love an indignant, disruptive character. So that's who is, I keep saying, strong and wrong. I love that because there's a level of like, you want to live in their world a little bit. And like, I could use a dose of what you have, which is telling you that you know everything. You know everything. You can handle anything. And everyone else around you is wrong and out of their minds. Those are the kinds of characters I like playing, just disruptive, indignant, and oblivious to reality. And so I do think Lisa and Mrs. Shaw both possess that same sort of quality.
And another character you played this year is very timely. It was a Weekend Update character, Black Ariel. She was an anti-hero. She was kind of a bad girl. She started the war, or no, she supported the war in Iraq. She was responsible for the BP oil spill. She thinks salmon are racist. What was your reaction when you read that sketch, the script, for the first time?
Well, I pitched that character to John Higgins, Ben Marshall, and Martin Hurley, and talked to them about it. I was like, this is obviously a big part of the zeitgeist right now. It's a big part of this conversation. We've seen it everywhere. You can't really escape it. And my whole thing was like, what if Ariel is not what people think she is anyway, right? So there's all this discussion about how the casting is, some people are upset about the casting, which is insane to me. And I'm like, you're all up in arms about this made up character that can be played by anyone. Okay. And the reality is she's so made up. What if we found out more about her backstory? And it's like, yeah, she is an anti-hero and she is not a role model, and your kids shouldn't be looking up to her. And it was more just to say, like, you've made all these assumptions about this made up character, and you don't know. She could be played by anyone. She could be anything. She could, it's a made up character. Loosen up and enjoy her. So it was fun. We worked on that together, and it was fun to get to do it for the audience. And the message might have gone over some people's heads, but at least like, it was very cool to be in the little mermaid tail. I was like, I would love to be a mermaid for a day, actually. I don't know who could make that happen for real for me, but yeah. It was very fun. And the jokes in that one were so fun to come up with the boys. And it was fun to have the audience. We had this thought about like the audience responding to the supporting the war in Iraq. And it was like, yeah, and if they groan, I'm going to go, come on, please. You know, you did too. So there were moments of that were like, I'm going to just see how the audience reacts to this and then respond accordingly. But she was another really fun, unexpected character to play.
And Lorne Michaels has called this season a transition year because we lost some pretty big stars like Kate McKinnon, Aidy Bryant, and then Cecily Strong left at the beginning of the year. I'm curious, what is your reaction as a cast member when one of your friends says goodbye? I mean, obviously not goodbye out of your life, but goodbye out of day-to-day work.
I mean, it's bittersweet, to be honest. You're excited for them to go on to see especially the three you mentioned, Aidy, Cecily, and Kate, spent so much time at the show. And the show is so time consuming and so demanding. You know, on one hand, it's sweet because you're going to soar. I can't wait to see what else you do beyond here. I can't wait for the world to see what else you can do. Because also, here's a little secret: at Table Read, we get to see so much more of our cast members than the world gets to see. And you go, oh, they have that in their toolkit, but no one's ever gotten to see it in terms of the audience here. And so like one day, surely you're going to pull that tool out. And so very exciting for them to be like, okay, you're going to go on to do great things. You're going to showcase things you haven't been able to showcase on the show. But then of course, bitter because you develop a rapport with your cast members and you sort of feel like a family, and it's very close knit. And you go, oh, part of my family is leaving, or like my family is changing form right now. And I don't like that because change is always like a little uncomfortable. But ultimately, I think it's important. The show, part of why it sustains is that it evolves, and Lorne has such a like eye for talent, and the show just keeps going because he brings in great people who can fill these really big shoes and fill them in their own unique way. So yeah, I would say bittersweet, but I'm excited for all of our cast members who left because they're gonna be great.
And I love the newbies this year: Marcelo Hernandez, Molly Carney, Michael Longfellow, Devin Walker. I feel like usually when there's featured players, we don't see them very often as viewers, but all four really had, you know, they killed it in their first season. What is it like when newbies arrive on set? Is there like a hazing process?
I mean, I'm not hazing anybody. If there's I'm certainly not hazing. I don't think, the part that probably feels like hazing as a first year person, and I can speak to because at one point I was a first year cast member, is not knowing what the hell is going on. And there's not a ton of hand holding going on. I think this season was really lovely because I do think Lorne, in a way he hasn't in the past, made it a point to offer each of these new cast members a showcase moment or two or three or more. And that's not something that has happened in the past in that same way. So I think they came in at a really great time and a special time in the history of the show. But the hazing feels like it's sort of a byproduct of just being like thrust into this machine and being like, where the hell am I? How does this thing work? Why does this joke I always tell elsewhere that kills elsewhere not really working here at Table Read, or not really working for this audience? And it's just such a shift, and it's such a huge machine that's the hazing, where you're just like, you're hazy is what it is. You're like, where am I? What is this? How do I find my footing? And that takes time. But what was nice this year, I would say, is that Lorne did, in a way, again, that he hasn't, in the time that I've been there, made it a point to make that space for those new performers. And so that has been great to watch them kind of come into their own at the show.
I'm curious if you have any dream hosts that you are just, itching to see host one day. Personally, Jennifer Coolidge has been on my list forever. And so I was so bummed that her episode has been
Oh,
postponed because of the strike. What
I
about
I know. I mean, I'm very excited. I hope that we get Jennifer Coolidge back next season, and I bet we will. That's got to be on the agenda. Everyone was so excited to have her. I know the audience was excited to see her. So I'm right there with you. My dream host that I keep saying, and hopefully he'll hear, he's hosted before, but I want him to host while I'm there, Jamie Foxx. Absolutely. He is so versatile. I love his music. I love his comedy. I love his acting. I would love to have him and come to the show, and I would love to get to do a sketch with him. So I'm going to say my dream host is Jamie Foxx, and I'm going to throw this out here because why not? Beyonce and Barack Obama should also come.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm down for
Yeah.
that. And if Barack is busy, we'll take Michelle too.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll take Michelle. We could do a co-host situation. Stephen Martin did, so like we could do a co-host situation. I'm just throwing it out there. Michelle and Barack episode. No, not bad.
Well, Ego, thank you so much for chatting with us today. And final question, the Emmy nominations are coming up. SNL has been a favorite of the Emmy voters over the years. What would it mean to you personally if you were to get a nomination this year?
Oh my goodness. Whoa. It would mean a lot to me. It would mean that I've seen and the work I'm doing at the show is resonating with people. And that's always, it's so special and fun to get to do the work that I do, just point blank period. But then added bonus icing on the cake to have it resonate with audiences and actually have people articulate that it's brought them joy, and to have it recognized would be like, wow, it would be just a surefire sign that I'm on the right path and doing my life's work, and carving out a space for women that look like me on the show. And so that would mean the world. That would be very special.
Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful summer. Okay.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for taking the time. Bye, Marcus.